Welcome, everyone. This is Dan coming to you from the wood shop at DTM Enterprises. You are listening to the Spiritual Underground podcast, and I'm a little juiced up tonight because just been looking forward to this one for whatever reason, and we got extra energy in the room, which brings me up a little bit too. This whole community aspect of doing this thing together does something for me. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we are basically primarily a 12-step recovery-based podcast. I do explore other areas of recovery and the way people find their true voices, but the way I found mine was through the 12 steps, and that's the message we're trying to carry here primarily. DTMWW.net, that's my little woodworking handyman business here in the Louisville metro area. If any of that's something that you need, I'd love for you to contact me. It's doing well and keeping busy doing that. 12-Step Spiritual Recovery, also known as TSSR, is a book by James Christopher Cone. It can be found on Amazon. It is the 12 steps for everyone, I like to say, and some people kind of laugh when I say it, but I believe it. It is the great compendium, the magnum opus, the maximum prime version of the 12 steps. It is a manual that you can read and do this work and get these things in your life, and it is the fundamentals which gave me what I have in my life today and what I pass on to the guys that I work with. Darren Frank's music's wrapped around this podcast, so he's still working on his physical recovery. Please keep him in your prayers. That is all I got to lead up here. I do want to introduce my guest today. I've known him probably about 5 years plus, I would think, if I'm going to guess back, because that's about how long I've been sober. And I met Barry, I'm pretty sure, in a meeting here locally, that what I used to call my New Albany home group meeting. It means a lot to me, and will really carried me for a long time. It's moved, and there's a dynamic when a meeting moves or changes times and does this that can really have an impact on it. And from what I understand, it's had one on that meeting. But I met Barry there and Kathy, and both of them became friends, and they heard about this TSSR thing we were doing, and came over, and you'll probably, I'm sure, hear a little bit about that in this story today too. And they both attend that regularly also. I have some more to say on that, but I'm gonna let it unfold as the story comes out. So, Barry, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, Dan. Doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. I always just loved your energy from the beginning, and you know how that is. And it's funny to be able to do that and say that today. Because it used to be, there was a time when I had my guard up most of the time when I was, especially if I met men.
Absolutely.
Let my guard down if I met women, right? But a dude, you might hurt me and might do something, and I can't appear weak and different things. Recovery swept that out of the way where I can actually
sure.
become friends with somebody and mean it,
sure.
And actually love a guy,
Absolutely.
That's what happens, and don't have to be hiding behind masks and acting like something, I played a real weak, tough guy. I just never was really good at it. But I thought that's what I needed to be.
Well, sure.
And,
sure.
So, what's your sobriety date?
June 23rd of 2013.
June 23rd of 2006, 13.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Cool. I had to do my math in real quick. I knew you've been around for a little bit, and you had some sobriety before too, right? So that's just your...
A little, yes. That is my last sobriety date, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I said, my current sobriety date.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll keep it to that one day at a time. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. Now it's starting to get a little warm in here. Are y'all warm, or is it just me? Everybody good? Okay, cool. I might tell you to go over and turn off that heater in a minute. This one will keep on going, and it does pretty good. So, did you grow up around? Where'd you grow up at?
I did, Jeffersonville, Indiana.
Did you? So you're a
I've
lifelong.
lived there all my life.
Have you?
All my life.
That's
yes.
one guys I can say about the New Albany. I was actually born in a hospital in Louisville. So my birth certificate says Louisville.
Yes,
but
yes. I think everybody was born in Louisville back then.
Maybe so. Maybe
mostly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back then, golly, man, it set me into this old guy.
I know. And you're not as old as me, but back then, I don't think they did a whole lot in Clark County or Floyd County over here on this side of the river.
That might be the case. I hadn't. Mom and Dad lived here in New Albany, and I think I have lived in. I have lived in 4 houses in my life. One of them was don't remember because they moved before I was in memory age.
Sure.
And we lived in another place I can remember just a little bit, and I almost don't think I should be able to remember that because I think what I've heard is the stories told to me.
Yes.
And they have become memories.
Yes.
Because we moved here when I was 3, and I can't imagine that I remembered all this stuff from prior to that. Now I can remember moving into this house. I can remember plainly at 3 years old. I can remember a couple things that specific anchor
stands
points
out to you
that stood out to me. One of the things I remember is Dad had taken a medicine cabinet off a wall, and it had one of them old kinds that was set in the wall, and it had a little slot in it where you dropped you used razor blades down into the wall.
Okay.
And I found one of them. And I cut my finger with it. And so that's one of the reasons why I can remember that. But yeah, born and bred in Albany.
Yes.
And so you're Jeffersonville.
Jeffersonville, yes. Grew up in Jeffersonville. Had a good childhood, really. I wish I could blame all the things I did on my childhood, but I was blessed. My mom and dad both had really good jobs. My mom was a teacher. My dad was an office manager for a printing company, and we never wanted for anything that we needed, and we were blessed then with that. I've got one sister. She's 4 years older than me. And
4?
I was thinking, 4 years older than me. And I was thinking on today earlier, I don't really think ever in my entire life have I really had an argument with my sister.
Really?
So I've been blessed there too.
Yeah.
We stay pretty close, and she doesn't have any of the issues that I've ever dealt with, to my knowledge. And there was no drinking as I was growing up. After I got sober, I have realized there was some alcoholic tendencies. My mom's dad was a drinker for many, many years. He was not like me. He might only drink once a year, but he'd be gone for a week.
Oh, really?
Yes. And my mom would tell me that when she was a little kid. Remember, she'd be scared to death, will my dad come home?
Huh.
But there was no drinking in my house. I mean, my dad might get a pizza and drink one beer, but that was it. I never watched it growing up. But all in all, it was a good childhood. When I look back on it, I went to a school where my mom taught.
Did you?
Yes. So when I look back on it a lot, I was very much babied throughout the first 6 grades. And, favoritism, I'm sure, in that school.
Yeah.
And I was just spoiled rotten, to be honest. I mean, and with my parents, my mother, she taught me right from wrong, and so did my father. But my father was poor when he grew up, and he wanted me to have everything he didn't have. So probably when I look back, probably some of their issues they ended up having, it was a direct result of a lot of me, because I would push one way to get what I wanted, and the other side would want to, would really just want me to earn it, But they were both great. And then I remember going to Parkview in junior high, 7th grade. And I was blessed with somewhat athletic talent. Popularity was never an issue.
What'd you play?
Well, I played basketball and baseball and everything in grade school.
Yeah.
But in junior high, just football. I didn't make the basketball team. Boy, that was a big issue then. Because I went from a small pond to a big lake.
Yeah.
And it was a lot different. And I had a lot of girlfriends. I didn't have a real issue with that. But see, I wanted them all. I wanted them all to like me. Because my thoughts in elementary school, I was the, or I thought I was. My ego was so huge as a kid. And between that and being spoiled, and when I hit that in junior high, things really changed. I didn't feel out of place because I couldn't have. Because, well, I guess I could have. But I mean, as far as having friends and all that, everything was still really going great. And I don't really remember my first drink And I do like to say, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, I'm a codependent, I'm a little bit of everything. I can indulge in anything. It's either all the way in or all the way out for me. And I've always been like that. That's my personality. But I definitely qualify for a lot of these 12-step programs, And
I think we all do. As we start peeling back the onion, you start seeing more and more, alcoholism, and tends to be the big bruise that is real evident. But then when it heals,
absolutely,
you go, ooh, look at there.
Well, yeah, to me, once it was real quick getting sober, kind of, but then I had to learn how to live, and I still am today, and I'll be doing that until I die.
Right.
I know that today. But anyway, about the first drink or whatever, it was about 7th grade. Blackout drinker from the get-go. I just was. I hear a lot of people's stories, and they talk about how it just gets worse and worse and worse. And my story did get worse and worse because of consequences. But as far as what it did to me, no. I was a full-blown, when I started, I was a blackout drinker. And I'm going to say probably 99% of the time that I drank, I was a blackout drinker.
Wow.
Every day. And along the way, of course, marijuana started, when I was probably a daily smoker of that from early teens until around 30. And then for some reason, I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. But at that point, I drank every day.
I did the same thing. One day it just started where I just didn't want it anymore. But when I was real young, it was easier to, before I was drinking age, it was easier to get that than it was to get liquor. So that, dope man didn't care how old you was.
No, not
liquor
at all.
store did.
Not at all. Yeah, you're right there. And I tried just about everything along that path. I remember getting into high school, and a good friend of mine, he's gone now because of this disease, and he handed me this little piece of paper, and I was getting ready to go into typing class. He said, "Here, Jenkins." He'd always call me by my last name, and he'd say, "Chew this up." And I chewed it up because he was a lot of times just full of shit. And I got in that class, and about a half an hour later, I was looking around at everybody and started smiling real big, and I thought, what is this?
Yeah.
And it was acid.
Yep.
And that was, back at that point, that other than the drinking, I loved it.
Me too, man. I fell in love with it.
But I didn't
have acid where I don't think I should be okay today.
Well, we never said were okay today, Dan.
Well, damn it. But I did. I loved it.
Yes, because I could just keep drinking and I'd never get drunk. I remember waking up in the morning and my back be so sore from just laughing all night long.
Yep.
But even just like with the alcohol, everybody else was doing a half a hit or doing one hit. And I was like, well, give me 4 of them. Yeah. Because I was like, if 1's good, 2's better, 3's got to be better. What's 4 going to hurt? So I did that a lot in, probably 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Probably about those years. Of course, back then, too, we had the Quaaludes that you don't have today.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be today's downer or, but we'd eat them, chew them up. And I didn't like that because my drinking was so bad. I love to drink so much, and you give me one of them, and 2 hours later, I'm liable to just be out.
Right. I like stuff that help me keep drinking.
Stay up and stay going. Yeah.
I never was a downer dude either, and I think that's a bigger reason why I put down the marijuana.
Yes.
Because it got to be where really the only thing would be the only thing that was really safe was to do is a nightcap, when I'm ready to quit for the night.
Sure.
Then that'd be okay. But, during the night, during the regular course of the day and that kind of stuff, it just didn't do for me what I wanted. Maybe want to chill out, and I wanted to keep drinking.
Yes, and if I was drinking and I smoked, then I really got tired and I'd get sleepy, and I didn't want that because I wanted to keep drinking.
Yep, so you're same in that regard.
Absolutely. And I, of course, the cocaine, enjoyed that a lot.
Same effect, keep me going.
Yes. And I guess the closest thing to what a lot of these young people are struggling with today, the heroin. I have never done any heroin, but I did do Dilaudid. And that was real popular back then, which I believe is synthetic heroin.
Yeah, it's on the same spectrum.
Cancer patients. And I tried that one time, and Did I like it? I guess I did a little bit. It was in and out feeling. I felt like I was great, and then you just like come to for a minute or two, and then I'd just get a real rush again. But thank God I only tried it one time. And I look at today, thank God I wasn't young in this day and age, because I'd be dead.
Yeah.
The way I drank, the way I did. I mean, the things I did can kill you, but it's a whole lot slower.
Yep. The consequence rate is ramped way up with heroin and other things like that. Yeah, you hit your bottom quickly.
And all they're wanting to do is get that same feeling I got off of beer.
Yeah.
That's all they're wanting.
Yep.
Ain't no different.
Yeah. Somebody else has said this, that liquor was real consistent. You knew what you were getting into when you bought a bottle of Jack or a case of beer. With that, you really have no idea what you have just put in your palm of your hand or in your vein or your nose or however your ingestion method is.
Absolutely.
You just have no idea what you're getting.
Absolutely.
It really is a Russian roulette. It's
yes,
every single time you are rolling the dice.
Yes. So through high school, like I say, it got to where I really didn't want to play any more football.
Just turn the knob on the left-hand corner, but be careful because it's sitting up there. And just turn it all the way to left. Go ahead with football.
I didn't want to play any football anymore as a junior in high school because I was too many extra activities. Yeah, it was. And, of course, at that time, too, I wasn't going to a whole lot of high school, so it wouldn't have been long that they wouldn't have let me play anyway. So I remember spring of one year, there was only like 2 months left of school. I did go to homeroom, and they called me down to the office. I was like, and it was the men's counselor, the dean. So I'm walking down, I can see him at his desk. I thought, well, I don't really care what this is about. I knew it was because I hadn't been to school for about 2 months. And so I walked in there, but I couldn't see the chair right beside the door as I walked in. I turned around and looked, and it was my dad. And I was like, oh, my God. So he basically told me that, he didn't see any sense in me even trying to come back anymore for that year. Maybe I could try the alternate school they had down in downtown Jeffersonville the next year to finish out high school. And I remember getting up and leaving his office, and my dad was with me, and I thought, man, this is really going to be bad. And we walked outside of the high school, and he basically just looked up at me, and he said, you made this decision. And he left it at that. I mean, it wasn't, he didn't say a whole lot about it.
Didn't dress you down or do any of that? Or?
No, he didn't. He just left it up to me, I guess, to figure out if I was going to try to go back. And I did in the fall. I went to the alternative school they had down in Jeff. And, of course, to me, and maybe it's different today, I don't even know if they have anything like that. But back then, I mean, you just put about 200 kids that you kicked out of high school all together. And all they want to do is drink and smoke dope. And that's all they were doing at the high school. So why do you put them all in
sweep them up and pot them out over there?
Yeah. So anyway, boy, I've met a lot of new friends down there, and they'd let you leave for half an hour at lunchtime. And I mean, you never ate lunch. You rolled around in the car, smoked 4 or 5 joints and whatever you could get your hands on, come back to school. And then, hadn't been there a day or two, and I guess I'd met most everybody down there, and at the end of the day, they said, hey, we're taking up a pot. You want to pitch in a couple bucks? I said, well, what's it for? Well, we have keg parties down on the river after school every day. I said, well, hell yeah, I'm in. Here, let me give you my money.
So you got kicked out years ago.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, that went on down there, and that was just insane. I mean, you got 16-year-old kids getting kegs, and one usually wasn't it. They'd go back and get another keg, and then we'd be driving all our cars home,
right.
9, 10 o'clock at night. Unbelievable.
I remember having, we had some keg parties and stuff, and now that I think back, this was like, between 16 and 19 years old kind of thing. Multiple kegs, someplace out with people coming, and sometimes we didn't know who it was that was coming. And today it's just like insane to think that one time we went to Harvest Homecoming and passed out flyers at the Harvest Homecoming, and we're that old. We had 6 keg party. Come on. And to think of that is like, and it went south. The party did go south. It ended in a big brawl and wrecked cars and broken feelings and all kinds of stuff. That ended up. But yeah, that's your. Well, how old are you?
I'll be 56 in March.
Okay.
Not as old as I look.
Yep,
but
not
that's
at all.
years, and
Yeah.
that's what everybody will tell me at work. They'll say,
'cause I just turned 50, and a lot of what we're talking about are like right on parallel, and of course, like almost like we went to school together or something.
Sure.
And, I'm relating to
not that much difference really in age.
Yeah.
And then of course, a few DUIs. Back then it wasn't as bad. You get, spend about $500 and you could get out of one and get it erased. But several. I mean, I was the world's worst. I would love to get so drunk and black out, but then I love to drive.
Yeah. I like to drink and drive too.
Insanity. I'm so blessed.
It was a safe place. It felt like, I like to go driving around. I would get beer and go drive around for hours. Sometimes by myself.
Sure.
Sometimes with other people, and purposely. The point was, now I think about it, really what I was doing, I felt like if I kept moving, because when you stopped in park, the cops would come screw with you.
So if you kept in motion,
so you kept moving,
fine.
and you kept your car under the speed, and you didn't run red lights, and you didn't, and you go out in the country out here, and get out of the way and drive around, and I didn't, it for whatever reason it felt safe, but the whole purpose was that I might as well have said, Mom, Dad, I'll be back later. I'm going out drinking and driving for a little bit.
That is true, though. It is. And I got lucky because they're in my early 20s. I racked them up. But I would get lucky. I'd get one in Jefferson County. Then I'd get one over here in Clark County. Then I'd get one back in Jefferson County. And they never would time together. Had they have, maybe I would have quit sooner. Had I ever had to really pay the consequences.
Yeah, consequences would have escalated.
But
yeah,
it just didn't. That wasn't my story,
Yeah. Because a lot of people, you lose your license, like we got that one friend that says he lost his license for life twice.
Well, and I'm that guy. I'm that guy. I've lost them for 10 years. I lost them for life once. Yeah, I did. And then I met a girl at the alternate school, and we ended up having 3 kids together. She liked to do what I did, but not near to the extreme that I did. Of course, I really couldn't get with a woman that did because I needed somebody to take care of me, too. Mm-hmm. Looking back on it, I know. Because really every relationship I've ever been in, the girl would drink, party a little, but not near like me. I had to have somebody be able to, call in sick for me, do whatever,
Play mom.
Absolutely. And that's basically what they did. But we were married, and right out of high school, I got a job at that printing company that my dad was an office manager at finally. The Binghams owned it over in Louisville. Big printing company. And, right when I walked in there, and, you always hear people say painters, plumbers, printers, they're all drunks. And I thought that, but that's just because that's who we found in those places, But that was fantastic. It was a union job. I was 19, and I think back then it leveled out around $13 an hour. But that's when a pack of cigarettes was about $1.25, And you could work all the overtime you ever wanted. And usually your overtime shift, you'd only work 4 hours and get paid for a full shift. And there was a little place right across the street called the S&H Bar and Grill. And that was great because you could leave. You could take 45 minutes. You could take an hour. They really didn't. They just didn't watch it. And we'd go over there. I loved working the second shift because I didn't have to be at work until 5 and I got off at 1 o'clock in the morning. So that was perfect. I'd work 3 or 4 hours, go over about 9 o'clock, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And, we'd shoot down 8 or 10 anyway. Just mugs of beer real quick as we could, and go back to work. And then we just lay around. As long as the presses kept running, you didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You just laid on rolls of paper. So that went south finally. They ended up selling that printing company, but right about a year before they did, they laid me off. That's where they had the big shooting years ago down there.
Right. Yeah, that's a really famous thing. Standard Reviewer.
Yeah, and I knew all those guys.
I kind of lost the guy's name that did it. I just
Joe W.
Yeah.
But I knew him very well.
Did you?
Yeah, very well.
And so the layoff was
right before the shooting.
This guy laid off?
No, I was laid off.
I know, but he wasn't that. I was just wondering.
He was still there. He was a journeyman. I was still an apprentice. It only lasts. I didn't even make journeyman because I was only in my third year of apprenticeship. And they were laying some people off, and thank God they laid my dad off. Well, they didn't lay him off. They offered him a buyout type thing. So he got out, and like 4 months later is when all that happened. And he went up through the offices, and my dad probably would have been right there at the front when he come off the elevator.
Wow.
So you get blessings and don't even know it at the time.
Yep.
It's
that whole Chuck C thing, that new pair of glasses thing, where I can look at stuff with a completely different view today,
Absolutely, than we did when it happened.
Yeah.
But so I was laid off from there. I didn't go to college or anything. My mom and dad would have paid for me, but I knew better. And I sure didn't want to go to any more school. I didn't even like school when I went to school.
Yeah.
So
that's
after
more school. What are you talking about?
I know
it. People saying you need to go to college. I'm like, nah, I didn't like high school.
Why do that? So then, so I sat around, got unemployment, I guess, when I was laid off there for a while. And by that time, we had 3 kids, small kids. I had moved in a home. My mom had a couple of homes. One was my grandfather's. My sister had lived there for about a year when she got married. And then they bought a home down on the river. My mom called me one night and she said, "Hey, Barry, would you all be interested in living in that house out there in Evergreen Circle for a little bit until you..." And at first I thought, I don't want to live out there, Well, I still live there. Yeah. I went out there at 21. And then finally, she passed away 6 years ago. And, so yeah, I never left. True alcoholic, Give me a chance and I'll take it. So we were living out there and I lost that job at the printing company and I didn't have any real skill of any sorts. Nobody wanted to hire you in the printing industry because you came from a union shop. They wouldn't even talk to you, So I was sitting around. My dad was sitting there, and he really didn't have anything to do. And I thought, you know what? We ought to just start a landscape company. And he's like, what? Of course, now he's got all the money. I ain't got anything but unemployment.
Yeah, we should start.
Yes. So, of course, I talked him into it. And we did that for 3 or 4 years. He spent almost everything that he ever put in retirement. He lost in that. And it's just alcoholism. I was sick, but I didn't put forth, when I look back at it now, I didn't put forth any effort, but at the time I thought I was doing a lot, Yeah. But I wasn't doing nothing. I mean, but anyway,
like our little plans and designs,
Yes.
Because a thing like that can work out, and we are hard workers at times.
Absolutely.
When we wake up, we're some of the doggone hardest workers people find.
And if we're interested in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when we're sick, no
we're
matter
sick.
what you want, no
Absolutely.
matter where your intentions and motives lie.
You can't.
You're
just right.
Can't.
You're right. He lives well today. He still had a good retirement, thank God. And
is he still around?
Yes, we're very close.
Cool.
In fact, we're going back to Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
we're going back to Kentucky Lake May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and he's still making it. He'll be 88 in April.
Daggone, that's cool.
I've been blessed.
Yeah, so that's 6 years difference in between your dad and my dad.
Okay.
And about 6 years difference
That's
between
funny.
me and you.
That is
Dad's
funny.
82 up there, and he's active as all get out. And, he insists on push mowing the grass. And when he moved in, that was one of the conditions he had. Okay, well, I got some things to talk about because I want to make sure we're clear, and there's some couple things I need to have out of this arrangement. I'm thinking, what? Well, first off, I'm cutting the grass. Okay, I can go with that.
Sure.
And so that's cool. So y'all have always done that together, fishing and that kind of thing.
We have. We've always been very close.
Yeah.
Very
Do you hunt?
close. When I was a kid, I would squirrel hunt a lot.
Did your dad? Or
my dad would squirrel. He did as a kid, so he got me into that. I squirrel hunted a lot, and for about 10 years there, I had coon hounds. I used to go to a lot of hunts out of state, and I was really there again. I was full blown into that.
Yeah, right.
I still had 2 or 3 nights a week that I would drink solid, but I used the marijuana more of a
coon hunting and drinking hard is not necessarily.
I never drank when I hunted. That's the only time, but I would use the marijuana to get me through the week while I hunted.
Yep.
It was either or.
Yep.
Either or for me. But other than that, I love to fish, and I got into trapping, set a lot of traps as a kid in high school and all.
I dabbled a little of that too, yeah. When Chick opened up his place over there.
Chick and,
And when he did that,
I remember.
we'd ride bicycles over there, and Chick would talk to us about trapping, and we dabbled around. And
Yep. Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. There again, I was full blown into that, when I did it. I couldn't wait to take the furs every year to sell them. And, back in the early 70s, I remember red fox, we'd get $100. Raccoons, we were getting $75 a skin, and we'd get bunches of them, and that gave us extra money, to just do everything that we did, dabbled with.
That's what I like about sitting. That's one of the really cool things of sitting here talking to people is that I get to hear a lot of things and learn about somebody.
That's true.
Learn a lot about either a friend, or sometimes the person sitting there. I just met them, so then I get to know them like that.
Well, sure.
I'm not sure where these things would have come up in conversation otherwise.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Then let's see. In my mid-20s, I got a distribution charge in possession. And, of course, it was in Clark County. So I had a probation officer down there, Frank D. And nobody really liked Frank because Frank did his job. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't, I didn't know it at the time, but he'd been sober 16 years. Mm-hmm. And even people in AA, a lot of them, he was very controversial. Because he didn't sugarcoat anything in a meeting. He just flat out, I never forget a newcomer, a younger guy was in a meeting. He talked about how he broke in these warehouses and stole stuff and all that. And I saw Frank just lean back in his chair, and I thought, oh my God, he's getting ready. And he said the alcohol made him do it, and that's why he broke in those warehouses. And Frank just pulled his hand up like that he wanted to speak. And I remember when that boy was done, Frank said, well, first off, you're just a thief. Alcohol didn't make you break in any place. You're a thief. And until you realize that, you're probably never going to get any better. And that's just the kind of guy he was. But anyway, so I was on probation for that possession and dealing charge. And for about 6 months, I was on home incarceration too. 6 months home incarceration. Somehow or another, I don't remember this exactly. I got a DUI. And anyway, I had to go
on home
see
incarceration.
I can't. Maybe the DUI. Maybe I was on probation, and then when I got that's what it was. Then when I got the DUI, then I got 6 months home incarceration.
If I knew I was going to be telling this story, I'd have kept better track.
That's right. And so I knew I had to go down there and see him on Friday. I didn't know he was in AA. I didn't know any of that. I just knew he was a mean son of a bitch. I mean, I was a little bitty guy, frail, 100 pounds probably, and he was just rough. And I walked in there and I said, Frank, I got to tell you something. I was scared to death. And he said, I already know. And I said, what? He said, you got a DUI the other night. I said, wow. He took out a piece of paper and he wrote down an address. And he said, here. He said, go down there. They might be able to help you. And it was the address of the old Token Club in Jeffersonville. He told me to go to a couple meetings. Still didn't tell me he had, that he was a member or anything like that. So I went down there. I got 6 months home incarceration. And I actually was able to quit drinking for a year. I still smoked. But I was as sober as I'd ever been since I was 12 years old. I was so proud of not having to drink all that time. And I was on home incarceration. And he called me one day. He said, what are you going to do on Derby Day? And I said, I'm thinking, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm on home incarceration. He said, well, I'm having a party. Why don't you bring your wife and why don't you all come down to my house? And I thought, this is going to be a whole lot of fun. I didn't want to go at all, So we
you
go
almost
down.
kind of feel like you have to, right? I mean,
it
felt less than an invitation, but an order.
I had to go. So we show up there, and believe it or not, we had a fantastic time. And they were all sober friends of his, But I thought, what are we going to do? You can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't. And we didn't. So really, when I look back and they talk about the seed being planted, it was planted. It was planted back then.
Yeah.
When we left there, my ex-wife was like, that really was fun. We had a good time. So after that, we got divorced. She got tired of me. She was really my first prisoner.
Yeah.
And I went through 2 others before I met Kathy. And, as far as that goes, I'm friends with them today. I've done my amends. There was always a good side of Barry. But then there was, the other side of Barry that was very sick.
Thing, man.
Yes. Yeah. The DUIs were really mounting up, and I'm not at all. I don't say this too, but I've never heard the story of anybody that had anywhere near mine. I had over a dozen I was probably let go 6 times at least that I should have went to jail. That's just how insane I was. And it wasn't like, my mom, after so many, and my mom and dad never really got on me about the drinking. I guess they knew it wouldn't do any good. But she occasionally would say, Barry, have you ever thought about quitting? Are you crazy? I always knew it was more money to pay out. That's all it was every time I would be mad. I'd be mad at myself for getting caught, but it was never, that was not an option. I couldn't. And
it didn't occur to me. I had 2 before I was 19, and the only thing I did, I learned to do it better. And
absolutely.
Stopping drinking, driving never occurred to me. It was like, okay, well, I've got caught twice. What do you do to not get caught?
I know.
A dozen or more.
It just, I guess, and I want to go back when I first drank at 12, 13 years old, what it did for me, and I heard this off an old speaker tape one night years ago, but it is exactly what it did for me. It's like turning on the neon lights. When I drank, it was like the world was just totally different.
Yeah.
And at 12 or 13 years old, I was like, this is going to be an issue. Because like I said, I was already a blackout drinker. But I was like, we got to do this. Somehow or another, this is it for the rest of my life.
Yep, it's like having the golden key.
It was.
Like, okay, I found it.
That's it.
Now
That's
I can
how
figure
I
out,
feel.
this is what I need. This is what I'm going to be doing.
But in the 30s, I did a total of 18 months home incarceration, 3 6-month stints. And that's just because of spending a lot of money on attorneys and getting lucky. Just getting through the system.
Yep. If you knew some people, like parents knew so-and-so, that kind of thing, and then if you had some money.
And in Clark County, you could do that.
Yep, right.
It was, that's all it was, really.
Yep.
I remember one night about 4 o'clock in the morning, I probably didn't go to bed about midnight, but I woke up with this extreme pain in my lower left part of my body. And I sat there and I for about an hour, hour and a half, and I thought, I don't know what this is, but I got to go to the emergency room. I can't, because I didn't want to go. I was drunk. I was everything. So I got down there, and they did run all kinds of blood tests and all, and it was pancreatitis.
Mm-hmm.
And some type of alcoholic liver disorder, they called it back then. So this little doctor comes in. He wasn't a doctor. He just was like a chaplain or something there at the hospital. And they basically told me, it was about a 24-hour period. We just got to see what happens with you. So it wasn't like you're okay. You're going to be great. It was like, let's just see if you stabilize. And he came in and asked me if I'd ever heard of AA. Because that's really their only solution is a 12-step program. And so I got out of there, and I think maybe I went a week without drinking. Maybe. And then I was
I'm
just
probably
right
proud
back.
of that, too,
Huh?
You go like 5, 6, 7 days and not drink or something, man.
Oh,
You're
my
like,
gosh.
hell, I don't have a problem.
It's a miracle. So I was back at it, hard. About a year later, same thing, pancreatitis. Back in the hospital for about 3 days. Got out again, about a week later, started right back into it. Now, at that time, I was maybe 35, and I didn't actually quit till I was 47. So I still 11 years hammering it every day.
What'd you drink mostly?
Beer. That was my
I was
favorite.
a beer drinker, too.
That was my
primarily a beer
favorite.
drinker.
I'd drink anything you had as long as you had enough of it.
Yeah. Whiskey take me out of the game too quick, and hard liquor usually take me into like the same kind of thing as what we were talking about earlier. I wanted to stay in the game.
Sure.
And I could drink beer all day long. I could pretty much drink beer till I was ready to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, beer was
whatever
my favorite.
that was. It was made me ready to stop. Whether if it was,
well, sure.
But yeah, I could continue to drink beer most all day.
That was my favorite. And then about, I don't know, 40, I was probably about 44, 45, and doctors for years had been saying, when I'd go in for a physical or whatever, they would look at me and say, "Are you diabetic?" And I felt like, you're the doctor, and
tell me.
But I guess I was borderline for so long. So then they found out, I guess they finally said I was. And they, and he knew I drank, and he said, you gotta quit. There's no way you can put this kind of sugar in your body on a daily basis. You're not going to live. And of course, I was a smoker all my life too, so I was smoking 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes a day too, just like I drank. And so I went home, and I thought, so I got on the computer, and I thought, well, I'll figure this out. There's got to be a solution. I know there is. So it's probably not even accurate, but I come up with the assumption that I could drink vodka. Vodka's I thought or read that it had the least amount of sugar. And I'll never forget my youngest boy. He was in Clark County jail at the time. And I went to see him over one of those video things, is all they let you do then. He asked me about how I was doing and all that, and I told him they told me, I had to quit drinking and all. And he said, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I found out I can drink vodka." And I'll never forget his face on that video thing. He started laughing. He said, "You're a crazy son of a bitch." He said, "You're never going to quit, are you?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And so that went on a couple of years. And my oldest son was in some trouble. and he was staying down at Jerry's place in Jeffersonville. But he was able to come home some. I had gotten off work on a Sunday night at 6. I never could even make it home. I mean, I had to stop at the Thorntons off Blankenberger Parkway, and I had to got my beer every night.
Unless it was already in the car. That's the only way I didn't stop. I already had some ice down cooler in the back or whatever. I already had it on board.
I would buy 2 double deuces, and that's what it took to get me from Blankenberger Parkway to Evergreen Circle in Jeffersonville. And they'd be gone. Sometimes I'd have to nurse that second one going across the bridge. That's sick. I mean, that's how sick I was.
I used to drive around, not come home, because I wasn't ready to get home yet. I would just buy cans of 12 ounces, and maybe 30 or 12 or whatever. I had no idea what made me grab the particular number out of the box at any particular time.
Sure.
I never did buy them big beers, though. Not until I started playing sober. I started playing sober I would grab them big beers. And,
So
and I don't really know what that equation was, but yeah, I would ride around. I might even just be right here.
Yeah.
Within a block of home, but not want to go home yet. So I drink a couple more beers before I get here.
I hear you. Insanity. So I was at home. I'd probably had, I don't know, 12 or 15. He'd been to an AA meeting down in Jeffersonville that night. He was court ordered to go. Mm-hmm. And he was staying at the house that night. So he came in a little after 9 o'clock, jumped on the couch beside me, and he started that AA preaching.
Not this shit again.
Yes. And he started preaching. And like I say, what I tell people is I wasn't halfway done for the night. Like I say, I was trying to mainly drink vodka. So I had a gallon of vodka on top of the refrigerator. I had at least 30 beers in the refrigerator. And I'd probably already drank 15 anyway. Yeah. I was a fast drinker too.
At the top of my head, you say, "Hey Barry, let's go have a couple beers." And said, "No, man, I can't. I'm diabetic. I can only drink vodka."
No, I'd found something to drink. We'd have been okay.
Yeah.
So he comes in there on that couch and he starts talking all the AA stuff. He's all hyped up.
It's all juiced up.
He was juiced up. And you hear about spiritual experiences. And I know it tells you in the big book about bills. And, a lot of people just have them over time when they work the steps and stuff like that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will think I'm totally insane or I was totally drunk at the time. But I'm sitting on my love seat in my living room. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I heard something said, "Why don't you try something different?" And that's all it was. And I sat there for a minute. And the first time in my life I ever really, truly listened to anybody, you can call it whatever it was. Mm-hmm. It was not a thought. It was like somebody spoke to me. And I sat right there on my couch. I didn't say a word, but I thought, why don't I? Why don't I just try? So I get up. I walk in my kitchen. I threw the beer away. I walked back in there and I sat down. And I looked at Anthony. And I said, "I think I'm done." And he just looks over at me and he goes, "Done what?" I said, "I think I'm done drinking." And he looked at me and he said, "Bullshit. You ain't done drinking." I said, "No, I think I'm done." I said, I'm going to go down to the Token Club in the morning. I'm going to go to the lunch bunch. I said, "I'm done." I'm sure he thought that would never happen.
Yeah.
The next morning, I went down to the Jeff Token Club and I went to the lunch bunch. I knew those people. That year I was in there, I knew those people were happy. They all said they weren't drinking, and I believed them. I thought there's got to be a better way. So, at that point, I feel like I dove in. I just knew it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for me. I knew those 12 steps up on the wall. When I looked at them, I thought, this is just utter bullshit. This is not going to change anything about the way I feel about wanting alcohol or anything like that. But a couple of the old timers that like I say, I went to a meeting every day there right at first. And I met a couple of the old timers. A couple of them have already passed away. But they made me feel right at home. And so I watched and I asked them, I said, what do I need to do? What all do I need to do if I want to stay sober? And they basically told me, get you a sponsor. Meeting makers make it. And I hear that today still, and I still believe that. Yeah, we got to work the steps, but you let this crazy ass mind get away from these meetings, I know where I'll go, because I know how I am and how I think. I have to see it on a daily basis and be reminded of it. But that's what I did. And about 6 months being sober, it's funny, my mom was on me about I wasn't dating anybody because I knew I'd have to find a girl that didn't drink at all. It wouldn't be the girl, it would be me. I thought, I just know me. I can't be, if any female I was so addicted to them too. If any female would have said, well, can't you just have one? I know what I would have said. Yeah, sure. Let's go. Yeah, I'm sure I can. Mm-hmm. Why not? And so she said, well, a lot of people, Barry, are meeting online nowadays. I thought, well, I can't even, at that point, I couldn't even work a computer hardly. I'd never been on them. So I get on there and I get on this dating site and I start talking to this woman from Bradford, Indiana, right up there by Greenville.
Yeah.
And that's Kathy that I'm married to today. So that's how we met. And she is one that maybe drank a little in high school, but never liked it. Mm-hmm. Little marijuana, never really liked it. And she is a blessing in my life. Yeah. She has been. She is what I needed. There's just no way. And it's funny, she said, yeah, I'd like to go to a meeting with you. And we went to a meeting, and it was a discussion meeting. And when we left there, and she goes, I think I'm one of you all. And I said, do what? And she said, I really think I'm one of you all. And I said, what do you mean? You said you never drank. She said, no, but I think just like you. She said, my mind works just like yours. So that's been a blessing because, like I say, a couple nights a week anyway, we go to meetings together.
Yeah.
And I still try to hit a lot of meetings. I've been through a lot in recovery. About 6 months, maybe, no. I was sober a little over a year or so. I had a nephew, and he had some issues with heroin, and they had to call an ambulance 2 or 3 times. And so he went to Evansville, tried some treatment for about 40 days. They thought he was doing better, and he OD'd and died down in his basement of my sister's house. Ooh. That was rough. Thank God I was sober to help them get through it. My mom wrote me a note after the funeral and said, Barry, you don't know how much it means to me that you were there for the family to hold us all together. And it was funny, though, when I got sober and I talked to my mom every night on the phone, we'd talk. And after a month or two, I'd be all hell-bent or twisted one way or another, and my mom would just say, Barry, one day at a time. That's what you tell me. But it's funny how the program, when you get around people that's never even been in the program, but if they listen to you enough, it starts working in their life.
Yep.
And it did in hers. And I got her picked her up a few books from Al-Anon. And they really helped her. And she had those before his death, because she was struggling so much. Because really, the most part probably is watching the pain my sister was going through.
Right, yeah.
But so the program really did help my mom the last 18 months or so of her life. And it was such a blessing. Several of her good friends, when I would see them or something, they'd pull me to the side and they'd say, you don't know how proud your mother is of you. And I'd say, no, I do. She's told me, And my mom said, Barry, you've given me the best blessing I've ever had in my entire life. You being sober.
Yeah.
And that, I was just so gifted that she lived long enough to see me pull together.
Right. Yep.
It's
a miracle for me too.
That's just a blessing.
Mom died when I was just about 13, 14 months sober and was able to get out of the woods, and she saw that happen, but yeah, I'm real blessed that happened. A
lot of people don't get that,
yep.
Then she passed away, and that was, she'd had heart condition, so she was, but there again, I don't, my God does stuff just so amazing. She was put on hospice. I was able to go to her house and sit down with her the week before she died. And I was just sitting there, and I really didn't want to cry in front of her, but my mom just looked at me, and I just said, it's rough. I said, it's just rough knowing you're not going to be here, And we got up, and she hugged me and said, it's all going to be okay, Barry. And, but that was rough. I went through several surgeries. I've got a lot of blockage in my legs, and I probably got more stents than anybody in southern Indiana, I'm sure. I've had a couple in my chest. Then I had real struggle with my legs. I had 2 stents put in about 8 years ago. And then it got to where I could still work, but it was hard to get around the small, worked in a small furniture store down in New Albany for years. And finally I went to one of the specialists, a vascular surgeon that I've had this whole time, and had a test done in June of last year. And when he walked in, he said, "We got some real issues. We just have to address them." He said, "We're going to have to do a bypass or something. Your blood pulse, your rate down in your feet is down less than 30%. And if it gets much worse, we'd have to amputate, you know."
Yeah.
So I said, "Well, what makes you..." A heart doctor tried it just a couple of years ago and couldn't even get in the catheterization and all that to try to stent anything. "What makes you think you can?" And it was probably isn't the right question to ask a specialist. And he looks at me and he said, "Because I try harder."
Huh.
And he said, "So we'll try to stent them first. And if we can't, we will have to bypass and you'll be off an extensive time of work." So I was lucky enough, July 18th of 2019, I went in for what was a 45-minute procedure. Ended up being 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
I lost 1.5 liters of blood. I had Kathy in the waiting room, in that little room that they put you when it's not good news. And they hadn't told her anything that whole time. And then finally he came in and he said it was successful. I was able to
we can't really take a time out, can he? He's got to keep he said he was going to try harder.
Well, I knew when I woke up, and this nurse, the first thing I remember is this nurse standing there beside me watching this machine. And this other nurse walked by and said, "You need to go to the bathroom?" And she said, "I'm not leaving right here." I thought, this isn't good. If she's not even wanting to go to the restroom. But anyway, so I'm blessed. I can walk now. Just another gift from God. I thought I'd never be able to again.
Is this diabetes related to this circulation?
No, I just think it's heart disease.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My mom suffered with it. She had bad legs for years, just to where she couldn't walk far. She'd have to stop and sit down because it's just blockage in your arteries.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. And
it's really not that you got a bad heart. It's all the areas going to your heart and the blood flow.
Right, yep.
You know, so I'm sure somewhere down the road, if I live long enough, I'll struggle with it again. You know, probably have to do another procedure. But you know, the thing is, I've probably been through more in sobriety in a lot of ways than I ever went through all the years I was in the madness.
I certainly have. It's a weird kind of thing, you know, but there's also that veil that's back there where like some things aren't just real clear, you know, and it didn't have the impact, and I didn't see them for what they were in a way that I see them today, you know. And I've had a couple, you know, between Dad's health issues and a couple other things, and something I haven't really put on the air yet, and that have hit pretty damned hard. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that without this program and my brothers and this fellowship and doing these things that I'm doing, none of that would have went well.
No.
I'm able to walk through difficult things, do hard shit today, and with grace, and even actually, you know, more than that. Actually, I can actually walk through it, like you were talking about, be the healthy one sometimes, and play that role because of this whole 12-step thing being in my life. Sure.
Well, and I will say, and it's all because of you, that me and Kathy came over there to TSSR.
Because
we kept watching you at Northside, and I was like, damn, there's something there. There's something there. And my sponsor is Christopher C.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
We share a sponsor.
I hadn't said that yet, but working the 12 steps through the TSSR, I just gained a lot of closure.
So just for the story kind of thing, you know, I met you all over there, and I was, you know, I was sentenced to home incarceration. I was scared to death, and I was doing a little bit of that coming to that meeting, doing that playing sober thing I was telling y'all about, because I was out on bail, you know, and you're really not supposed to be drinking when you're out on bail. That's one of the little small print things down there. It says that.
Supposed to shy away from it.
Yeah, and I'd had a divorce decree that said I couldn't drink when I had the kids, and I can't believe today that I actually signed up for that. You know, it's actually in my divorce decree that when I have the kids, I'm not allowed to drink. And so the second I dropped them off, and I was free, and I knew when I had windows, because I mean that when it really got difficult, because I really had to look out, because I needed everybody to think I was sober. I need everybody
Sure.
to think I'm sober. So I got to do this one on the real deal,
God, that had to be hard.
Yeah, it was, and just buying just enough, because then, and then at the end of the night you had to dispose of all that. So you couldn't get drunk enough that you couldn't, get rid of the stuff. I'd take it, put it in somebody else's garbage and all that, walk up the street, put the bottles and the cans in somebody else's garbage and hide out. And but at the time I was going to meetings, and I was seeing you all. And then whatever happened, and I hit the spiritual underground, and my life, my trajectory of my life changed that day, just boom, because and that's the first guy I heard speak in this meeting of dudes was him. Okay. And there was something different. He was saying something that was hitting me, unlike anything I've been since 2011, and this is 2014. I've been going to meetings, and I put together one of them years of not drinking.
Sure.
I did some other things.
Yeah.
But we was in AA.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was
you weren't in NA.
Right. I wasn't doing any of that other stuff, And I took that 1 year token, and was to some extent proud of it, because I really did not drink for a year. And I didn't do a lot of other things.
Sure.
It wasn't like I was madhousing it. But anyway, to get to that, I'd been to a lot of meetings, and this guy talked, and I heard him say something, and there were some other guys in the room that shared a level was different than what I was hearing any place else I'd ever went. And all I knew is that I would be back here next Tuesday. And I was still playing sober. And I come in there and tell them, how you back? Cool, man. Good. How you doing? Fine. I'm doing good, great, actually. I had lying the whole time, and one day I wasn't doing great, and I spilled my beans in that meeting, because that's what people were doing. They were sharing the truth, and I was scared, and things weren't looking good. It was looking like I was really going to go to prison, and I spilled my beans in there flatly because I was freaking scared, and those guys were modeling that for me.
Sure,
they were coming in there, and when it come out to talking about a burning desire, guys were doing real burning desires about stuff that was deep, and it was real stuff. And so somehow or another, God gave me the power to do that one night. And Christopher walked up to me after that meeting, made a beeline to me. And I've been wanting him to sponsor me, but we do a sponsorship call, and you say, everybody raise your hands that will and able to sponsor a guy through 12 steps right now, and he never raised his hand.
Sure.
I kept watching for him to do that, and then that night he come up and he said something to me. He said, "Hey man, I would like to sponsor you." And he gave me the list of things the hoops I had to jump through in order to do that. But it didn't matter what he said. If he said you had to bring me a pee sample every other day, or if you had to, whatever he said, I was going,
You was willing to do it.
And I didn't know. He said, can you meet on Tuesday nights after this meeting? Because that's when my available time is. I just said, yeah. And I continued to do that through him guiding me through the work. And I didn't know that I was doing this methodology that is now documented in that book, because that book didn't exist at that point in time. And he was talking about it, but I didn't know what he was talking about. And all I want to know is how to stay sober and how to stay out. Mainly, I was less concerned with staying sober than was staying out of jail.
Well, yeah.
And that's all I really wanted. I did not, because and I'm still convinced to this day I'm just not really good prison material.
Well, probably not, man. Probably not.
And so I was just telling him, but he was talking about this book he was writing, and he was beginning to share his life with me, and it started to be this stuff, and I really didn't understand that at first. I did have a little bit of this, like, man, you are my sponsor. You're supposed to be listening to my shit. No, I never said that, but in the back of the head back there, and then when I had real big problems, he'd give me these real weak answers like, pray about it. And some magic really happened when I started actually listening to him and doing that stuff. But then one day he said, "Hey man, I got this book and it's in really good shape, and I'd like you to read it. I got a chapter here. I won't bring it on Tuesday night. I'd like you to read this chapter." And I was honored like a mug, man. I was hopped up. He said, "You gotta keep on down low a little bit, because I ain't letting everybody read it."
Sure.
And so he shows up, and it's almost like some kind of a spy novel thing where you're out in the parking lot and he slips me this manila folder, and I slip it in my jacket and walk over and stick it in the car, and take it home and eat it up at night. And then I said, okay, wait, good, great, awesome, loved it. When's the next chapter? He said, well, it'll be a little bit. And so then we started doing this deal out in the parking lot where I would give him a mail folder of the chapter I just read. He would give me another mail folder of the next chapter. And we just did that. And for a while, you know, and I remember when I went to Japan?
Yeah.
I think I got the chapter on step 4. It was either 4 or 5, one of them, and it's long. It gave me one of those, and, you know, that's a long flight to Japan, too. Oh, so it was interesting that I got that big old thing of reading material. At the same time, I was going to have this big old plane flight. So time went by, you know, and we started reading it, and the book come out, you know, and we started having the meetings. And I knew y'all were talking about it because I saw you know, it was a little iffy to be sharing about that in meetings. But I would always share it under the guise, and I wasn't really meaning, this doesn't mean, you know, this is my New Albany hillbilly bullshit. Not that I was trying to pull the wolves over somebody's eyes or something, but I truly was sharing it from the level of, hey man, everybody understands that this 12-step thing is working. That's what we're all in here talking about.
Sure.
And we all say, I wished my wife, or wished my mom, or I wished my uncle, wished my employer had this program. But nobody was really doing anything to make that happen. And this looked like that was the deal, that this was a way and a door to say, hey, now your mom or your wife or your whoever has a place to go and come check out this meeting. And I remember your all's ears perking up, because I can tell when I read people, because when I talk and share and stuff, I see and I look around at people, and you see people who are into what, you know, that are engaged with what you're talking about, and people who are not, and other people who are like, you know, what the hell are you talking about? So we started this stuff, and y'all came right off the bat pretty much, right? I mean, it was just pretty close right after a month.
Yeah, about a month after y'all started.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know did you start going to Spiritual Underground at the same time, or?
Right after Christopher started.
So you really started going to TSSR
first.
Got Christopher, I asked him to sponsor you, and then
started
coming to the
Spiritual Underground. Why don't you come to this Tuesday
too.
night meeting?
Yeah, cool. Because that's I kind of want to spend some time, because we're up at that time level, and you did that, and, you know, and like I was tickled to death, you know, because I know whatever that dude has got, he's got a way of transferring some knowledge and some of this new pair of glasses stuff.
Oh, he does. Most definitely.
In a very effective way, you know, and the people he works with in his professional life all will, you know, get to have that. And I say that to him. I go, you know, those people that are coming through that treatment center where he works have got no idea of the gift that they landed in that chair.
Sure they don't.
And are able to get that transferred, and that knowledge and that recovery speak given to them while they're there, you know.
Sure.
And you'd think, and a lot of them are, you know. I've been to some of one of the early, when Christopher first started sponsoring me, he was celebrating at this other meeting in Louisville, and there was like 100 and something people in this meeting, a big meeting, and it was one of the ones, you know, they invited family members and everything. And that's kind of why we started doing the same thing, modeled out at Spiritual Underground, started having family members come in on birthday nights and stuff. And somebody, while Christopher had celebrated, and they did it at the beginning of the meeting, somebody said, hey, I just wanted to talk, and he congratulated Christopher, talk about how much he meant to him and all that. And he said, you know, what I would like to ask everybody to do is show if Christopher Cone or somebody that's in his lineage, or if you went to a treatment center, or if you had something, if Christopher has had an impact on your life, please raise your hand. And I'm sitting there pretty new, man. I mean, I'm like a couple months. This would have been May. So my sobriety date's in January. So, you know, I'm 5 months into this deal, and almost everybody except for the family members in that room raised their hand, you know, and that was impactful to see that.
Oh, yeah.
And, so we got this thing, and y'all started coming and tell me about Christopher and you're all, what, you know, the deal about you working the steps with him.
It has been fantastic. He opened up, like I say, so I've gotten a lot of things out of Christopher and him. He's really helped me. But one of the biggest things was my mother was really the disciplinarian, you know, out of my parents. And I blamed everything on her throughout all my drinking, all my madness, you know. And probably the biggest thing that he said to me was, because I told Christopher some of the stuff that she would do when I was a kid and get mad and kind of angry. And he said, Barry, but really all I hear you talking about is you. Did you ever think your mom might be sick or have some issues? No, it was all about me.
Yeah.
You know. And then he said, Barry, do you ever picture her as a little girl, maybe in her home? And I was reading, I believe, the 3rd or 4th chapter of his book, and I just started picturing my mom as a little child. God knows what that felt like when you didn't know if your father was coming home.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew my grandmother, but supposedly my mom was a lot like her mother. You know, probably she lived a very strict life, and, you know. So he really let me, and that was probably the biggest thing I couldn't get over. Even though I was sober and I wasn't drinking, I was still having real issues with my mom, and of course now she's dead, you know. But like I say, thank God I was able really to clean the slate with her before she died.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
The other thing I will say real quick that I'd like to say, you know, to me, and it's just my opinion, but there's not a doubt that this is hereditary.
Right. I agree.
I've got 3 grown children. They all have issues. And I'm not taking their inventory. I'm going by court records, institutions. You know,
the record shows.
The record does show there's some issues. They're not just unlucky. But I can say today, by the grace of God, this is the only time that I can remember that all 3 of them are sober today. It's never happened. I would maybe get one for a month or 2, you know, but they all
cats in a bag or something. You
well,
know,
yeah,
you don't get a couple of them here. I can't get that other.
Well, when you got 3 that have had issues with heroin, meth, I'm sure, and they're all harder stuff than I did. Yeah, it's and they're just blessings. Like I say, it's just blessings of this program. I guess the biggest one, I got a text today. My youngest son that's lived in the streets and done everything for over 10 plus years, 6 years, at least combined time in the penitentiary. He's either been in the penitentiary or he's been living in a garage. I mean, not having anywhere to live. December 24th, called me and said, I want to go to Recovery Works in E-Town. I've probably taken him to 20 different ones over the years. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, no, not doing it today. Got off the phone. He called me back about a half an hour later. They're coming to get me. Good. He's got 58 days today, clean and sober, that he hasn't been in a prison system. Never happened. He could recite that whole book, every page, and could for 10 years. He just finished his 4th step with a sponsor today. And he said, Dad, I'm so blessed. And I said, you don't know how blessed I am to see it and how proud I am.
Yeah.
Just one day at a time.
Yep. I think I only know one of your sons.
Alex my youngest one came to the Northside meeting a few times, once or twice, but it's been 3 or 4 years ago anyway, probably.
Yeah. And where is Anthony?
Anthony's still, he's in the middle.
He's the middle kid. That's what I meant. I meant, where's he at in 3?
Yeah. He's still at the Oxford House in Clarksville.
Yep. Yep. I always liked him, man. I
hope he, like I say.
This whole thing, and you kind of wonder sometimes, because that, like, all that you're trying to help him never helped him, right?
None at all.
And then when you stop helping him, he gets some help.
You do.
You go, whoa, hold on.
Yes. And I have learned that.
Yeah. That's a real interesting. It's really hard to do.
It's
doing
so
some
hard.
stuff around and trying to just, when you got people who are close to you that are in it, and you got to do this deal where, I just got to do my walk, and continue to be that. That's the only thing I can really do.
That's all we can do.
Pray for you. and walk this walk and stay on this path, you know.
But when it's your kids, it is so
I can't imagine. I really can't.
It is so hard.
You know, I hear people talk about that, and I do believe that it's genetic, and I do see some kind of traits and stuff, but man, I just refuse to like put that on my kids. I refuse today to go there just, you know, because I don't think it has to be that way. You know what I mean? No. And I do believe I can think shit into being happening. And man, some people might kind of balk at that to some level. But I have manifested some things in my life by thinking them through. I think there's some energy in life that actually does that. I'm not a total power positive thinking, and you know, some people use that prosperity gospel talk. You know, I'm not total on that, but there is some validity to it because we're sitting in a wood shop right now that was manifested by that kind of thought.
Sure.
And some other things have happened in my life are definitely that way, and I can also. We're a little bit like a dog on a trail, like a coon dog. Once that trail is kind of set, and that coon dog, I'm not sure that he really understands he's sniffing down a coon trail. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that's what he really knows what he's doing.
Sure.
He kind of gets on an autopilot in a way, right?
Yeah.
And I think in some level, we're not a lot more involved in that sometimes. If I want something, if I set my intentions that direction, and do the next right thing, even though I'm not really realizing it.
Sure.
That I end up manifesting things that I want. And it's the same kind of energy how when we're out in the madness, we attract that, right? And how do these friends that love to do that shit, how, you know, like you landing in that alternative school where all those other people were doing what you wanted to do.
Sure.
When I set my intentions for certain things, then I end up landing in this giant bunch of great men that are supporting one another and doing something different than I've ever seen before.
I believe that totally.
When I set my intentions on having a lot of marijuana and other type of drugs around me, you know,
it's probably
the universe put those things in my life.
Well,
you know?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of go back to that thing about the kids. You know, you don't have. I mean, if there's anything in my life that has made me realize like the actual definition of what powerlessness is. And I'm not dealing with what you're dealing with, so I'm sure it's like hammers home on you worse than a lot more than me. But I listen to you guys' stories, you know, because when you're talking and sharing about that stuff, I'm paying attention today.
Sure.
I'm not thinking about the next thing I'm going to say. And that powerlessness of raising children, and like witnesses this incredible amount of emotional energy being laid out onto something that I have absolutely, you know, it falls completely under the serenity prayer thing of the, you know, let go of the things I can't change.
Absolutely.
Because I can kind of guide them kids a little bit with some real wide guardrails on each side of the interstate, you know, and they'll find some way down through there. But if they're going to hop the guardrail, there's not a damn thing I can do.
There really isn't. That's Alex, the youngest one, like I say, that's doing. They're all three doing really good right now. But Alex, when he first got in down there right after Christmas, he said, you know, I just want you to know, although I haven't listened or done what you've told me, I've been listening all these years.
Yeah.
You know, so that made me feel good.
Yeah.
You know, all I can do is show them that I can do it. I think you're blessed that you were able to get sober when you were and your kids were a little younger.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, you know. But also, when I look back, you know, I look at my three kids and I say, well, you know, look what they watched growing up. But then I got to look back and say, well, what did I look at? I didn't even have parents that drank.
Me neither.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you can't always.
You know, drinking was a little bit normalized around, but I didn't see the kind of drinking I did.
No, none at all.
You know, my dad and his buddies had a few beers out around the grill in the backyard, you know.
That's right.
Everybody had some fun, and they'd throw some cards around and go home.
And then they'd eat.
Yeah.
They might drink a beer or two and eat.
That they
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. They actually ate the food that they were cooking. And I just didn't see that. Now, once in a while, I would have somebody like, I do recall some people coming around now and again. We always had a place in the country, and we didn't have the same one we have now. We had a place up in Henryville, up off Brownstown Road, and we had a family place there. It was my grandfather. My dad's parents owned it. and we would have get-togethers out there. That's 20 minutes up the road.
Sure.
Later on, that's where we had that 6-keg party. Matter of fact, it's that same place. When it kind of ended up kind of a little bit of abandoned, and we kind of took it over once we got driver's licenses and all that. It was 20 minutes up there, and it was you could lock the gate.
Nice.
And you do what you wanted to in there, and I would remember once in a while there'd be some people would come around when Mom and Dad would have bigger get-togethers, because they would maybe have a bigger get-together out there, and it might be the Memorial Day, and there was a pond, and people would fish and cook, and it's just good stuff. But I never saw anybody like crossing the line, except for every once in a while we'd see somebody was like, whoa. And I remember as a little kid going, and I had really no idea what that was.
Sure.
But today I'm looking back going, oh,
absolutely.
That's what that was, But, it was later on in years, and I was going to doing these parties and would go to these, I don't know how I would land at these places. I'd have a friend of a friend of a friend, and somebody was having a party at Nolin Lake, and we'd drive down there for the weekend, not knowing where we were going or who the hosts were and that kind of stuff, although we knew some people there, right?
Sure.
And we got an invite.
Sure.
Somebody invited us.
Absolutely.
And I can remember going down there one time, and and I don't even know what Kentucky, it was some Kentucky lake, and I was, doing my typical thing like you were talking about. I would overshoot the mark time and time again. Wake up in the bushes, and in the morning and not wanting, thinking about, oh, hell, what did I do last night? And then get up, got to act like, hi, everybody. And they're like, look in the mirror, and you got blackberry scratches down your face, and some little kid come up to me and looked me right now in the eyes, and he said, "You are a drunk." And I'm like 1920, some kind of neighborhood like that,
Yeah.
And I remember being hit with that for a minute, like,
what did he just say to me?
yeah, but I mean, I felt it for a minute. Of course, you
Sure.
got to shake that off.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, I'm
Yeah.
not. That kid's stupid.
Yeah.
But you wonder about that now, He looked at me and pointed that out.
He knew.
And I was acting a fool, no doubt, all weekend, I mean, like I said, that was one of them ones where I woke up in the bushes sometime, and day is getting daylight, and, like a short pants on, no shoes, no socks, no shirt, and no idea,
Absolutely,
where you're actually at.
Well, and the thing is, and for somebody that's thinking about it or knew, I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I did a
too.
lot of fun partying, until it turned on me.
Yep.
And it does.
A lot of fun until it wasn't anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I was the one that had to, if we were going to meet at the bar at 8 o'clock, well, I'd start at 6 at my house. I'd have to drink 10 or 15 before I even come met you.
Yeah.
And then I'd drink 6 there, and they'd say, "Why are you so
bar
drunk?"
beers were expensive.
Well, yeah, they were.
I get some of them.
I had to load up before I went. Yeah, insanity.
Yeah, and then people would, and then I'm trying to act like I'm not too drunk because I know that this guy just showed up drinking the first one, and I'm 10 in, and he's drinking the first one. And come on, I keep my shit together until he kind of catches up a little bit, so then we can kind of get a little on the even par and talk about it. Yeah, I didn't have that upgrade. I just didn't see that growing up. That's not, I saw people, there was a normalized thing. So drinking beer was okay. It wasn't off limits.
Sure.
Although I hear people sitting here in this podcast, it's parents and grandparents that was teetotalers, and it was totally off limits, and they still sit at the other side of this podcast table telling me their story.
Absolutely.
And then ones who had alcoholic fathers and mothers. And, there's not an equation.
No, there isn't. No. But there is a solution.
There is
a solution. And thank God for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm having a blast doing the TSSR thing, and it's being, I always have my doubts a little bit. Just like you said, this ain't going to work for me, and then it worked for me, and then my sponsor is coaching me to sponsor other people because that's where the juice is. So I'm starting to sponsor other people, and I'm going, I'm a little special. I understand why it worked for me. But it ain't going to work for this guy.
Sure.
Because he is too far gone. And I walk him through the same thing, basically that TSSR methodology that Christopher taught me that I didn't know what it was when he was giving it to me. And when I got a big book sitting here, and he's coaching me to do things that I can't find in this book.
Sure.
And I'm a little bit like, because I did put him, there was a little bit of I did look up to him, and I had a lot of honor for him. So when he was telling me to do stuff, I was just doing it. But in the back of my head, I'm going, I ain't in there. And I'm going to meetings and saying, you do steps per the book. And he's having me do things like go pick out a little baby picture of myself when my lights are still on and looking at that and keeping it around, or not a baby, but a little kid picture. And I'm looking at that and aiming for back when my lights were still on. And at some point my spirit got stepped on and different things had done that. And he was talking to me about the different things that stepped on my spirit. You know, the bullying that I went through, and other kind of, sexual identity issues that I struggled with. And, you know, the gamut, and talking to me, well, none of that's in there. Right? No. But he's peeling back onions and peeling back stuff and opening up this, like when we did a 4-step, he opened up that definition of the word resentment. Sure. Because that book says it's who I'm angry at. And he said, let's look at everybody that had an impact on you. Let's put everybody down. You know, if you can think of them, if you think they had, let's look at that and see what's up with it. And, you know, if it wasn't no big deal, it ain't no big deal. It's just a little bit of wasted ink.
Absolutely.
But if something's under it, we ought to try to find it.
Clean it out.
Yep. So we did big old inventory, you know.
Yes.
And started broadening a bunch of stuff. And it wasn't, you know, it's certainly right in line with what Bill writes. It goes right along if you read the stuff like The Language of the Heart, and you read those grapevine articles from Bill. And you do a little research on what he was preaching and what he was talking about, expanding this thing and making it bigger. And let's open the lasso,
sure,
and get more and more people in here, you know. And that's why the one thing they made it available, you know, and nobody ever copyrighted or tried to take ownership of the actual steps. And it was offered to every group that might want to think it would work for them. So now there's over 100 or something different groups using 12-step philosophy to do it. And I think, you know, Bob Earl's another guy that I just love, the speaker.
Absolutely.
And he talks, and, you know, he said,
yes.
And I could pull a quote that I really love it, and I'll paraphrase it. He said, I think Bill meant for us to continue to search and dig and improve these tools so that we can continue to improve the quality of our lives in recovery by whatever means that is, you know. And TSSR has just been one of those things where I went, I don't know if this is going to work for these normal people, you know. But hell, what's it hurt to give it a try?
It doesn't hurt
and
at all.
It's been fun as hell to on the ride with Christopher to get to read those. Because I have, and if y'all want to see it, I'll show it to you. I've been meaning to bring it to a meeting. But I have the last volume of the Manila Folders sitting underneath of my dresser right now. They sit there, and I've been meaning to like do something like put them away.
Sure.
Maybe even vacuum them. Somebody talk about like put them in one vacuum packers and like vacuum pack chapter by chapter, and just so where it stays in pretty decent shape for however long.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really like to move it because I kind of like it sitting down there.
Sure.
And it turned into a book, and it's the methodology that I do when I'm taking people through the steps, and I watch the effectiveness of it time and time again. And again, I'm not taking credit for this. This is I get to be an instrument in the master's hand is what I get to be.
Messenger.
Yeah. Use me.
Yes.
I'm willing.
Mm-hmm.
Sign me up. What do you want me to do?
Yes.
And now I'm doing it with these normal people. And I've done 1 5th step down to cabin because that's my place to go do that. And it was different, but every bit as effective and every bit as moving to watch that happen. And I'm watching these other people that I'm sponsoring in TSSR begin to see transformation in their lives where they're operating on a different plane because they finally got some principles. And I think one of the other things is having somebody to talk to.
It is.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Golly, man, that's that little thing in itself of building this relationship so that, you know, and that's the reason I say, you know, call me every day. You're like, sure. Really? Yeah, really. I mean it. And then you don't call me. I'm like, yep. When I said call me every day, I really meant that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one of those bullshit things, man.
Maybe.
No, yeah. I mean every day.
Call me.
Yep. And then he said, well, you'll hit your voicemail. Yeah, I know. And I want you to talk to my voicemail just like I answered. Tell me what's going on. Because I'm talking to a lot of people and I can't necessarily pick up the phone every single time. So talk to me. I'll go listen to your voicemail.
Sure.
And we got codes, you know, and the same stuff that Christopher said. And now I'm a little bit set aside at the moment now. But if somebody texts me 911, that means their ass is on fire, and I'm going to get to them as quick as I possibly can. I really am. I'm going to call them back, and I'm going to help and see what I can do. Most of the time I can't help but be a voice, but that's what we need.
Sure.
Somebody to talk to. So when we talk every day, right, we start building a relationship, and you find out that I'm safe to talk to. So then you can let a little bit more of your crazy out to me. And as you let your crazy out, it starts disappearing. And we do this work. And all of a sudden, lives transform. And guys who are dealing with, and I'm sure he won't mind, but he deals with rage. That's how the spiritual malady manifests in him. And the bigger deal is that it comes out onto his kids, sideways on his kids most of the time. And he don't like that. And he don't want to be that way.
Sure. And
he come to us, hopefully, to get some help. And he's doing better. And he talks about it when he blows up.
Yes.
And remind him that he's human and you're still going to screw it up.
Well, yes.
But the
only thing I've done right for the last 6.5 years is not drink.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing about these people who are not, that's not their deal.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because he don't drink.
No.
Now, he would like to go have a couple beers with his buddies at the pool hall once in a while. But he's made the commitment that I asked him to do, that while we're doing this work, we don't do that.
Sure.
And he's made that commitment to not do that. We're not going to use substances for the time being. And I explained that. That's one of them spiritual axioms I believe in, that, it's just hard to get you don't get the whole cup of juice.
Without, yes.
Because Bill didn't say half measures for no reason, right?
You're right.
And relationships turn into, new relationship and early recovery. What that do? That makes me do that half measure because I got half of my mind over there.
You're right. You're probably more than half.
I get a couple months sober and the promises come true and I get that job I always wanted. I hate that. It's the worst thing I ever, the relationship and that new job that the guy always wanted. And he believes that now that he's in the third step and getting ready to start on his fourth and he got this new job offer, that the promises are coming true. Like, I beg to differ, and I have my opinion there, because now all of a sudden this work is half measures, because you go get that dream job and, and it looked real good. But, oh, damn, I forgot to tell you, I got to work 60 hours a week, and and they want me on Sundays too. So and that's the kind of thing that happens, and it pulls you right away from this stuff.
Absolutely.
And if you'll make this work the primary thing in your life while you're doing this,
everything else follows.
And just put a tourniquet on everything else. Just keep it at bay, and if you're in a relationship already, I'm not asking you to end it, but let's just keep it where it is. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah. And no major changes.
And just keep all things padded and all that, and if you already have a job, we'll keep it going, but don't strive to be CEO next week.
Sure. Sure.
Let's just do it and put the focus on this. And I see people doing that. Now, that is one of the places where the TSSR see is that it's tougher for them because their ass ain't on fire like it was for us.
That's the only thing that, and I wish it well, 110%. I don't know if I could have done it unless my ass was on fire.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
It's a lot of work. I told Kathy before we came over here, and I get to go to meetings today. Mm-hmm. That is my fun. But I told her, I said, and she agreed, it has been a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It really has.
It is.
If you want to get sober, it's like anything else in life. If you want something, it's going to be some work.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what it is. Has it been worth it? Hell yes. Right. I'm happier today than I've ever been. Still life on life's terms. I'm still going to have these people die. I'm going to lose a job or have to change a job. I'm going to have health issues. But it's the best life ever.
Yeah, my favorite thing when you talk about all that I heard, and I keep on making clear that I don't make any of this stuff up. I've stolen and heard it from somebody else.
Anything I say has been stolen.
No matter what it is and what is going on, what I found with these steps is that I can still be okay, no matter what else is happening out there. I have a landing spot now. I might get, but I can come back quicker, and I have tools today where I can call a sponsor, call a support person, come back down, cut my problem in half, and get back realigned with my higher power and get my compass needle and point it in the right direction and get back on track no matter what is going on in my life.
Yes.
I could never do that before.
No, not at all.
I had to have a drama. I had to have, like you said, something happened. I'm almost certain it happened because of me. It's because they did that. My biggest thing is I love when people get mad now today about when somebody cuts them off in traffic. And it's like they take it personally.
Oh,
yes. No matter who was in your position that day. was getting cut off.
You're right.
They were not. It wasn't a direct.
But our ego, it had to be me.
Off.
It had to be me because it's still. I mean, I still struggle every day on. I'm selfish, self-centered to the core, but I'm a whole lot better than I was.
Yeah.
And one day
reel
at a time,
it in faster.
I do, and I just do it. I still do this deal one day at a time. I don't get out of that, and I can start my day over. Yep. Sometimes I can be so spiritual, and you let me walk into work, and 10 minutes later, I'm like, who in the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But I can start over.
Yeah. Blow the whistle.
Yeah.
Regroup.
And I still love the Al-Anon saying with the hula hoop.
Yeah.
You put that hula hoop around you, and anything outside of that is none of your business.
Yeah.
And it really isn't. And that's one other thing I will say, and I went to Al-Anon because of my children and all. But I almost would recommend that for anybody, a few Al-Anon meetings. Even if you don't have somebody in your family that drinks. It let me see the other side. It let me see the family of the alcoholic. And it kind of let me understand what I put my family through. I think it's good. And I think the Al-Anon program, AA taught me and helped me get sober. Al-Anon, a lot of their things helps me live on a daily basis.
Yeah. Because as we say, and it says in there, this disease affects our people around us like no other disease does.
Absolutely.
If somebody does get cancer, there's some fallout and there's some things that happens to the people around it. But this alcohol deal, we drive other people nuts.
Absolutely. We do. They get as sick as we are, if not sicker.
Mm-hmm.
And
they don't know it. It's kind of like the alcoholism thing where, I wasn't about to, I knew I had some things going on with drinking, but I really didn't, nah. And it's the same thing that happens, people don't realize that the alcoholic has affected them at the level that it has. It's like that invisible line too.
Well, and me and Kathy have talked. It is a totally different group of people. Usually when we go to an AA meeting, there's laughter. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that. Al-Anon, not so much. You still got some really pissed off people in there.
Yeah.
You do.
Yep.
They're damaged.
Yep. They're burnt.
Yes.
They're still smoking.
It's a good feeling. I think it's good to try it and just to get their view. And like I say, they've got a lot of things that really helps me on a daily basis in life that I've picked up from Al-Anon. But yeah, they're damaged.
Yeah.
I've
never been in a meeting.
You ought to try it.
I've walked a lot of people into a meeting, like at Northside when people come in there looking for the wrong, they're in the wrong room.
Al-Anon across the hall.
And of course, I know some people over there, so I can actually walk somebody in there and introduce them to somebody rather than just point at the door and say, it's over there.
Sure.
Which helps a lot to be able to introduce and say, hey, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so.
Sure.
Pull the plug and get out before I get any of that on me.
Yeah.
But I've heard that, and I've actually had, both their sides of that. I've had some people recommend that I didn't go to Al-Anon, but that's been a while back. And I heeded that at the time, I don't, but I hear you. I do totally hear you.
It's a good experience. It really is. And
I think it was because I was in early recovery and, and necessarily, maybe wasn't clear that maybe I could go in there and shut up or.
Well, they've got a few tools that they really don't in AA. Now, TSSR, we're starting to discuss a lot of the things about fixed, manage, control.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't a whole lot except acceptance in the big book.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
But, no, it's a good experience.
Well, I mean, when you say that, I mean, and I don't really know. I'm just, because it's come up in some other areas too, that if somebody went, that'd probably be good just to go observe. Don't try to get.
Just listen. And that's really all I did.
And I was afraid.
One time
my
I
friends
screwed up
maybe
and
thought that
told them I
wouldn't
was
be
in
able to-
another 12-step program. And
Yeah.
Kathy said, Barry, they've never treated you the same since. And it's probably true. They did.
Yeah, I think that might have been why I was advised not to go, because I have trouble keeping my mouth shut at times. And
Might be.
and I'm better at it than I used to be. I could keep my mouth shut in that today.
Yeah, just be quiet and listen.
Yeah,
You'll be fine.
observe.
Yeah.
Well, it's been cool meeting you and watching the same thing, and and again, this whole transformation thing that happens when we kind of step over here and look at a little deeper look at this thing, and I saw you shift as a result of that.
Sure.
And I kind of get to go along for the ride whenever, Christopher didn't sponsor a lot of people when he's writing that book. And luckily, he was focusing on doing that book. And
Sure.
it took me on because for whatever reason that day he was led to do that. And he'll talk about that for whatever reason, he said, hey, and I believe that happened on purpose. I don't believe in accidents.
Well,
and today he's my best friend.
How many people you helped
and I've
today.
watched him start to get back into the sponsorship game in the last couple of years or so, and starting to do that, and watching this thing grow. And one time, a long time ago, he said, "Man, you're gonna," and I sometimes I hesitate to say some things that repeat some things. He said, "Someday you're gonna have your own little army, and you're gonna look at back and you're gonna go, wow." And at that time I couldn't understand what he was talking about. And it sounded a little arrogant at some level, and a little bit where I was like, oh, I don't want that. But now I understand what he means, and I got this after sponsoring for a while. I've been able to have an impact on a number of men, and a pretty good number for the time I've been around.
Sure.
And they're all having lives beyond what they could understand. And, and we get to do this thing together.
Absolutely.
And I know their wives and their parents talk to me, and all that happening, and for whatever reason you get to get a little credit for that, and get to play a part in it. And it's just magic. And I love watching, even when I string off and Christopher's helping and other people, and you're getting it, and Tony and LJ, and, and watching these people, frankly, take this recovery thing to another notch, level up another notch or three. And
it's fantastic.
It's fantastic, man. Cause, I really think there's no, I read today, with Nick, we went through, cause I have a commitment thing. And when I do this thing, I still primarily, especially with alcoholics, use the big book as my guide. And I can transfer TSSR stuff with that book.
Sure.
I read that book 3 or 4 times before it was ever 3 times before it was ever printed. And I got it from Christopher a couple of times, and I've been giving it away for years.
Sure.
So I still use that, but I have this little milestone thing, and today Nick and I went through and we hit page 164 together, and that's something I want to do with guys when I sponsor them. We're going to go through the first 164. You're going to work these steps in this way, and that's what we're going to do. And when on day one, when you say, Dan, will you sponsor me? I say, okay, I'm open to that, but here's the things we're going to do. And I want a commitment from you that we're going to do this.
Sure.
And so I get to do that. And there's that paragraph towards the end in the family afterwards that says that he has struck a limitless load as long as he continues to mine it the rest of his life and give away the entire product. And it may be my very favorite line in the big book altogether. And I think it is. It is I'm finding that there are no limits of what I can do with this thing and what I can do on this trip around this big blue marble today. And all I got to do is continue to do it one day at a time the rest of my life and give it all away. It's a pretty simple formula.
And it's a great life, and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm having a blast. I really am. There's nothing more fulfilling. I've said this 100 times. There's absolutely nothing more fulfilling in my life than walk somebody through these steps and watch them change. And like today, when I get to the page 164 to stand up and give that guy a big, giant, warm hug, congratulating him for doing this work and seeing
Absolutely.
the change in that guy, because he's another one, right?
Sure.
It's apparent.
Sure.
I told him today, I said, what I'm going to have to do, and this sounds a little funny too, I'm going to start taking a picture of a dude when I first meet him and take a picture of him afterwards, because there is a difference.
Night and day.
In those two guys.
Night and day. Yep.
And then it's not, then get to know them and you see them talk and share and that, and it becomes really apparent. So yeah,
Sure.
This thing really works, and it's I just love having brothers and people walk, because what would it be if we didn't have each other or do it together, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be nothing.
Yeah,
it wouldn't.
It's a we deal.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks, Barry, man.
Thank you for having me.
Had for whatever reason, some kind of bond, some one of those click things from the beginning. I just, and I don't know why that happens, but it just does. I don't question it. It just does.
Sure.
And Kathy too. She's always been I always felt you rooting for me. And when you have people doing that, that's kind of a sponsorship thing too. You know, I find out and I see how important that is to have people rooting for you.
Absolutely.
And as a sponsor, I root for my guys and encourage them and do that. You know, when you have people that you knew who were rooting for you, it really means a lot to me. So thank you for doing that. Whether if you were, you know, however it happened, it had an impact on me and still does today. Kevin's in the studio too. You're new, right? How many days you got?
A little over a month and a half.
Month and a half. So what's that, in 45 days or so, someplace in that neighborhood?
After his son, like I'm right.
It's a long time, though, isn't it?
So that's cool, too. Yeah, it is a long time. It is a long time, and congratulations for doing it. I didn't mention it, and do you mind? So, you know, he just listened to the podcast a little bit, Kevin did, and he's saying something, and I said, well, come over and listen. Sit in on one. We're doing one tomorrow night. Let me make sure Barry's okay with it. I'm sure he'll be okay with it, but I want, as a courtesy, I want to make sure that you are. And you know, funny thing, because I told Barry this too. There's been a number of guys come sit into this since it's only been just a little over a year. But we started in like October, and like Vlad was like 4 days sober, and he said, "What are you doing?" You know, I don't remember what it was. It's some evening. I don't remember, Wednesday night or something. I don't know. And I said, "Well, we're all going over to Kevin's office and we're going to record a podcast. You want to come?" And he goes, "Yeah."
That's cool.
And he come and he just sat in, you know, and he's still sober to this day. And Vlad is kicking ass and doing stuff that, you know, you can find his story on this podcast too, of where his life was.
I listened to it.
And where he is today, and to see the difference. Because when the first day I saw him walk in the Spiritual Underground, I nudged Chase and I said, I still remember, I nudged Chase next to me and I said, "That dude looks like shit." Because he did, man. He looked like he was dying, and he was.
Yeah.
And he was. You know, there's been a few other people. So what my thing is here is that there's been some people that sit in on this, and almost all of them that have come in like early like that are still sober today. So there's a energy to come in, because what you're doing is you're participating in your recovery by sitting here, you know. And if you were like had a meeting sheet to sign, this would qualify every inch. This is participating in your recovery at any level, just like this is going to a meeting or, you know, do anything like that, working with a sponsor. You'll hear me say over and over again, and it come from Happy, because he told me, you know, and I didn't like it back when he said it because I didn't want to hear it. But he said, you must participate in your own recovery. And that's pretty simple stuff, right? But like you said, this is hard work sometimes.
It is.
And you got to participate in it. And it really helps if you're a willing participant.
Absolutely.
Because the 10th step promises we stop fighting.
That's right. That's right.
And that's part of doing this, you know, and there's a trade-off. And I make a guy, you know, this is another thing that Christopher's taught me, to make these steps important. And then when you do the steps with me, we're doing some ceremonial stuff. We're doing something important. This is real work. This is stuff that change your life. And I make it that way. And I set it all up, and I want to make sure that they understand that we're not just dancing down this little yellow brick road or something. This is real life-changing work, and it means something, and I'm going to make it important. When we do a third step, I make a guy have a pact with me. And it's just a handshake pact.
Sure.
But it means something. It puts some emphasis on the stuff, and it makes it important. And one of them is this work that we're going to do, and that I need you to be a willing participant. Because if I have to drag you along, it ain't going to work.
No.
And at times, you might need to nudge me.
That's right.
And so by participating in this thing, man, you get what you put in. You get out what you put in. And I know that's been some of the fruits of what's happened for me, is that I have had these opportunities to participate in my recovery, like this podcast, like the taking guys down there and doing the 5th steps at the cabin.
Sure.
20 years ago when that cabin was built, I had no idea why I was building it. Really, I thought I was making a hunting camp. I didn't know I was doing a recovery center.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that I was going to have guys coming down there doing retreats and doing that kind of thing. You know, I didn't know I was going to end up in this like communication director role with my group, where I keep everybody informed on what's going on and doing all that. I had no idea in that, and I never even planned to do any of it. It just happened, and I said yes.
Well, and haven't you felt, you know, when I think back early, the things that I wanted to do the least that I was asked to do helped me the most.
Yeah.
Stay sober.
Yep.
I'll never forget when I used to go down to the lunch bunch when it was the old Token Club. In that meeting, I mean, sometimes there was probably 150 people in there. And I wasn't but a couple months sober, and they said, well, why don't you chair next week? And I said, okay, and I left, and I was sick for a week. I was scared to death. How can you do it wrong?
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yep.
But you feel so much better, because I'm still backward. I don't really want, those are the things. Everything I have not wanted to do in this program helped me the most.
Bart mentioned that same kind of thing too, that the things that he doesn't want to do turn out to be the things that is most valuable for him,
Blessings.
And kind of, he said it's also become like a little signal in his own little inner
it's
deal.
Time to do something.
He goes, I don't really want to do that. That means I really should. Well, and I started to end it, and then I went off on another tangent. But appreciate you coming here telling your story for the show. And I always know that there's people out there. I'm getting tons of feedback on the people that's coming in lately, and I think it's just because it's growing. I get these emails or Facebook posts and things like that, and messages telling people that they got this or that out of a particular podcast, and it really warms my heart that I get to do this. And I'm in a couple of little groups that have podcasts, to do podcasts. And one of their main complaints and one of their things that they're always hitching on is I need guests. Who wants to be a guest on my show? Who wants to be a guest on my show? And I picked exactly the right slot to do a podcast on that I have infinite number of guests. I mean, really, will I ever go run out?
No.
Because alcoholics like come talk about themselves.
You're right.
And there's plenty of them around.
Absolutely.
And this is part of carrying the message as far as I'm concerned. This is a way that we get to carry the message, and your voice gets to be heard. And that old deal where one day you're sitting in a meeting and somebody says the things that you need to hear.
Well, and if one person listens to this and gets, hey, that's enough for me.
Yep. And it will be. And that's almost a guarantee.
Yes.
So thanks, man. Thank y'all for coming in, and I really am tickled that you wanted to do this. It really does. I've been given some gifts in this thing, man, and this is a sign of really wanting it. And when you really want it, you get it. Mm-hmm. You get to turn the corner and not have to go back to that whatever that was that put you here, because we don't walk in here for fun.
No.
Turns out to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm having a blast, and that's what I say in here. If you're not having a blast in your recovery, it's your own damn fault.
You're right.
And thank y'all for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner tonight. Peace out.
Always tried to be just who they wanted. Always tried to do everything they said. Only did the things they would approve of. Lock away all your dreams inside your head. Year after year you try to be a good girl. They never failed to point out when you were bad. Stuck to the program like a robot. Became a trophy for my